Next up, we are going to be having Jeff Boudier from Hugging Face, which is one of the largest AI communities in existence. So please give it up for Jeff.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Omar, and thanks for having me. How are you guys all doing? All right. I got a bunch of stuff to talk about, but first, I have a favor to ask. So I got a tweet ready, and the favor is, if you can do that, well, I'll take a selfie and tweet it out. All right. Are you guys ready? 1, 2, 3. Oh, no. Do it again. Do the hugging face. 1, 2, 3. Oh. Oh my God, it's a live photo. Perfect. Tweet. Okay. So, who here has taken part into the hackathon? Nice. Who's been using Hugging Face during the hackathon? Nice. Okay. So, for you, like a bunch of this stuff's probably not going to be new, but for everybody else, I hope I can give you some context about Hugging Face. I don't want to bore you through the whole story, so I'll just keep it nice and sweet with some snackable bites about Hugging Face stuff you might not know. And then I want to tell you a little bit about how you can build stuff using Hugging Face. There you go. If you have any questions about any of this, feel free to email me after the talk. I'm at jeff@huggingface.co, not .com. We don't own that. I wish. So let's start with 20 things you probably don't know about Hugging Face. Okay, number one, our mission. Our mission is to democratize good machine learning. And what we mean by good is open source machine learning, it's community-driven machine learning, and it's ethics-first machine learning. And speaking of ethics first, so everything that we do is built from ethics-first principles, but the most important thing is to provide our community with tools to do the same. And for this, we have a great page, the Society and Ethics page on Hugging Face, that sort of summarizes all the tools and guidelines that you can use in your day-to-day work to practice ethical machine learning. Things like tools to measure biases in your data sets, things like ethical charters for our libraries. So use it. Number 3, Hugging Face has become one of the largest open source companies in the world, at least in terms of popularity. These are the GitHub stars. Actually, today is a special day because we're celebrating 100,000 GitHub stars for the Transformers library. Thank you, community. It's all you. Oh, and of course, the Transformers library. This is how Hugging Face is mostly known, but there's a whole ecosystem of tools out there for you to do machine learning. Of course, the diffusers library, I'm going to talk a little bit about that. But then there are specific tools like PEFT for parameter efficient fine-tuning, like Optimum for hardware acceleration for your workloads, like text generation inference, specifically for LLMs, if you want to run them fast on your own premises. Number 4. Wow. So Transformers has been one of the fastest open source projects of all time, fastest growing, but Diffusers actually is growing even faster in these first few months. So super important for you guys if you're working on image generation, audio generation, take a look at Diffusers. Number 5. We're also celebrating 200 free and accessible models on the hub today, thanks to our community. So models to do anything from text summarization, generation, to work with audio, to work with images. More and more like biomedical models, time series models, not just Hugging Face models like transformers or diffusers, but also models from 25 other third-party libraries. So congratulations, community. We're building the open source future that we want for AI. And less known is that actually we're hosting at least as many models on the Hugging Face Hub. And more than 50% of the models that we host are actually private. Like when you go and create a model or data set, or a space for that matter, you can choose for it to be public, share it with the community, or private to you or to your organization. So it's a popular way to collaborate with your team around your models and data sets. Downloads. Now there's over 1 million model downloads happening every single day on Hugging Face. And I have here the most popular model architectures for those downloads. It's actually public data. We have a space for it here at spaces/huggingface/transformers stats. Number 8, how we make money. Big mystery. I get the question a lot. Thanks for the question. So two main ways. We make money by selling compute. So if you go on a Hugging Face Hub, you can train a model, you can upgrade spaces with hardware, you can deploy models on inference, and that's using compute that we charge for. The second thing is expert support. So we have a program called the Expert Acceleration Program that companies, large and small, use to get our guidance to build machine learning. Okay, so here at the hackathon, we're really talking about and with developers. And for developers, we offer an abstraction that sits above models that is called tasks. That is a very handy way to get started with machine learning and with Hugging Face. So instead of saying, I want a DBERTA model that is fine-tuned on such and such data set, you just say, I want summarization. And that page will walk you through what you need to know and the models that you can use right away. It's huggingface.co/tasks. Okay, number 10. Speaking of developers, we released a JavaScript library for people who are not Pythonistas. Built for the web. So it is huggingface.js, and it's a very easy way to add machine learning features to a web application. The client will make the request directly to our servers. Okay, we got a JavaScript fan over here. Woo! Number 11. So diffusion. Diffusion is pretty new, and so we developed a free course that you can take. It's on our GitHub that walks you through everything you need to know in order to be able to build your own diffusion models that generate that generate images, that generate audio, and to take diffusion in your own hands. Speaking of diffusion, of course, diffusion became popular with the open source stable diffusion models, but since then there's been a lot of other open source diffusion models to generate audio and images. So a cool one is Diploid. And if you've seen a lot of images generated by stable diffusion on Twitter or everywhere else actually, you might have noticed that hands can get a little weird. And the text is not really text at all. So Diploid is really good at solving these issues, in particular text. So I said, a fluffy and angry cat in front of a rainbow gradient background with a center text, keep AI open source. And look, it's spelled open source with 2 O's. So yeah, really cool. And I was actually impressed that I said center text, it actually centered the text. So if you want to generate images that have text, consider Diploid. ControlNet. Okay, still in creating images. ControlNet is an amazing suite of tools to guide image generation by providing it some inputs like a depth map, like a doodle, like an image. It will extract the contours and then build upon that. So if you want to generate images that follow a specific structure, use ControlNet. And in the diffusers library, there's very fast implementation of it. Number 14. Okay, so now we're going above the developers. We're going to the end user. If you want to generate images just by clicky, clicky. You can use a Mac app for that. We have an app called Diffusers. It's on the App Store. You need to have like an M1 or M2 processor to make use of it, sorry. Yeah, you have your laptop, make the images for you. You don't need a server, it's all there, it's running locally, and it's clickety-click. Fun fact, this app is actually open source. So if you're trying to build like a Mac app using machine learning, you can just check out the code and get inspired. Number 15, so I talked a lot about image generation, but of course large language models. And over the past 6-8 months, there's been a trend of, private release of closed source paid for models as APIs. And so it's very important to our mission, remember, democratize good machine learning, that we provide open source alternatives to those models. And some of those we're building ourselves, and some of those we're enabling the community to build along with us. So a cool couple examples. One is the Big Code project, which just released StarCoder. And another one is our current effort replicating a multimodal large model, something like a Flamingo or something like a GPT-4. Speaking of open source replication of models, you might have heard of Bloom. Bloom came out of Big Science. It was an open science collaboration that set about to create a state-of-the-art large language models fully in the open data set, open model, open research. And so people know about Bloom, but they may not know about BloomZ. And BloomZ is an instruction-tuned Bloom. So it's like the useful cousin of Bloom. And since then, there's been an explosion of open source large language models. Just in a few weeks, it doubled the amount of large language models that are open source and available on the Hugging Face Hub coming from the community. So yeah, there's a bit of a zoo or a farm maybe that grew out of the somewhat open source release of the Llama model, Vicuna, Camel, Koala even. And what I want to do to point out in this slide is that not all of these models are open for commercial use. So if you're doing research, you can use all of it. If you're building an app that you're going to charge people for, then you want to consider the blue models. The blue models are offered with a permissive license like Apache 2.0 or MIT license so that you can use them within your application. Notable new entrants last week, Mosaic LM released MPT 7 billion, a really, really cool large language model that is permissible. And Together Compute released Red Pajama Insight series of models. So check them out if you haven't already. I talked a little bit about BitCode, and BitCode, it was just a week ago, released StarCoder. And StarCoder is a code large language model. And it's very special to me because over the past few months, the story has been the open source community is quickly catching up on the closed source paid for models. And this changes a little bit the narrative because StarCoder is actually better than the closed source paid for models. So if you're into code assistance or any kind of experience that interacts with code, definitely check out StarCoder. It's built upon the Stack, which is an open source dataset, 1 trillion tokens. And that dataset is very special because one is been built upon only permissible licensed code, so you're not going to have any copyleft code in there. 2, it's built with an open opt-out mechanism for developers. They can say, do not include my GitHub repo X into the training dataset, and we honor that. So it's a very, very cool effort that provides an alternative to, the OpenAI Codex, GitHub Copilot, Amazon Code Whisperer, trained in 80 different languages. Hugging Chat. So if you haven't checked out Hugging Chat is a cool new experience on huggingface.co to interact with models the same way you would interact with ChatGPT. And what is less known about it is that what Hugging Chat really is a user interface to interact with large language models. And that user interface is also open source. So you can check it out on our GitHub and use Chat UI as your UI to interact with large language models. Last but not least, just in time for the AISF hackathon, we released Transformers Agents and Tools, which is a Transformers native way of using transformer models as tools and then large language models as agents. It's fully modular. You can use it with LangChain. You can use it with closed source paid models as an API. I'm doing a good job of not naming names here. And these are the 20 things you might not have known about Hugging Face I wanted to tell you about. Let me do a quick check on time. All right, I'm halfway through. Perfect, because I had 2 parts. That was the first part. The second part is more like practical stuff. Like, okay, that sounds all great, but like, I want to build an app. I have a model I want to deploy. Like, how do I do it? So you may know Transformers. It's Hugging Face open source. And you also need to know huggingface.co, which is the model hub where all the assets and the tools reside. That's what this is about. But first, so the biggest thing that happened in AI, in my opinion, over the past few years is the advent of transfer learning. And before transfer learning, we were trying to solve a problem. You had like to gather data together and like train a new model from scratch and do all that jazz, and that would take months, and usually people would give up. The new way of doing machine learning powered by transfer learning is the first thing you need to do is to identify what machine learning task would solve your problem, would help you build that feature. It could be summarization, it could be translation, it could be classification, or a combination of all the above. So the first thing you need to do. And once you've done that, you can find a pre-trained model that will already do a pretty good job at that task. And that's what you do with the Hugging Face Hub. You find those pre-trained models. There are 200,000 of them that are free and publicly accessible. And usually that works. If it doesn't work good enough because your data is a little bit different, then you can do fine-tuning. And that means that very efficiently, with very little data, you can turn that model that works good into a model that works great. All right, so Hugging Face Hub on huggingface.co. I was too lazy to redo that slide, so now it's 200,000. On the left-hand side, you have handy filters. I talked about tasks. The filters on the left allow you to quickly narrow down models to the task you're looking for, the library you're using, the language you want your language model to work in. Okay, first thing you can do on the Hugging Face Hub is to manage your models and data sets. And as I said before, they can be public, they can be private to you. The most important thing you need to know is that every model, every data set, and actually every space is a repository, a Git repository under the hood. So that means that you get full version control for every model that you look at on the hub. You can click on the Files tab to see exactly what's in there. There's a full version history. You can see who made what commit, what's the history. Each commit has a unique ID, so you can target a specific revision of that model in your code, so your app experience doesn't change when the model changes. Second thing you can do is collaborate. So on top of this platform to build machine learning, we built a collaboration aspect so that either privately within a team or publicly with the community, you can improve upon models. That's accessible in the community tab, again, for any model or data set on the hub. Within the community tab, you can do pull requests if you want to suggest changes. It can be something as simple as, hey, I fixed a typo in the model card, or it can be like, here's a new model checkpoint that improves upon things. In addition to pull requests, where we can see like the difference very easily, and everything is public and traceable, so you know who did what when. You can also have conversations like, I'm sorry you didn't specify the license for that model. What is the license for that model? Or if you want to make a feature request or whatever it may be, discussion tab is a great way to do that. Okay, third thing you can do with models on the hub. You can train models. So for any model out there, there's a train button, 2 options here. Auto train, it's our no-code option. And then Amazon SageMaker to use our solutions over there. Auto train is a no-code solution. So again, you take either the task or the model you're starting from, and then you just upload a CSV or a JSON of your text data or a set of images, and then let it go to work. I don't know if that's going to run, but I have a little video going next. Let's see. It's a little loud, sorry. Yeah, so as I said, you just pick the model you want to go with, the task, drop in your data, say which column is what, and it will just go to work. It will give you an estimate, because of course that's burning through compute, so you gotta pay for it with your credit card. And every model that is created is evaluated for the metrics that are important for that particular task, and they are also already deployed, so you can test them as soon as they are available. And that's auto train. Now say you got a new model, you want to do a great demo. Well, that's what Spaces is all about on Hugging Face. So here we have the Huggy Space demo. It's a reinforcement learning demo and a game for people who go there and want to train our little agent, Huggy, to go and fetch the stick. You can build any kind of demo on Hugging Face Spaces. Of course, we have integrations with Streamlit and Gradio, so it could be as simple as providing a Python file to specify the whole demo, or you can do things custom. We have templates for like Docker flavors, like Argila, like Shiny, and more. Every week we surface the most popular spaces, so go check them out. That was a few weeks ago, so it's all different now. And to talk about how spaces work, Nate has a quick demo. Oh, no, I skipped it.
The team here at Hugging Face is super excited to announce the public release of Spaces, the quickest and easiest way to build, deploy, and share machine learning demo apps. Machine learning projects come in all sorts of different flavors. We built Spaces because we wanted to provide a more flexible solution for folks to share their projects. With Spaces, you can take any existing code you might have, build an app around it in minutes, and share it instantly on our site, all for free. Let's see just how easy it is. To create a new space, first make sure you're logged into your Hugging Face account. Then simply click your user icon in the top corner and click New Space. Here's where we can name our project and choose one of the supported open source libraries we'd like to build our app with. Right now, you can select either Streamlit or Gradio. We'll name our app Demo App and choose Streamlit for the sake of this demo. Once we're ready, we can click Create Space to create a new project. Now, this project is actually a Git repo, so we could clone it locally to edit the files if we wanted to. We also have the option to just add and edit the files in the browser, so that's what we'll do for now. Let's add a requirements.txt file to our repo, which is how we can define our app's Python dependencies. To do that, we'll navigate to the Files and Versions tab and create a new file using the dropdown on the right. We'll name the file requirements.txt and add a couple dependencies, in this case PyTorch and Hugging Face's transformers. When we're done, we'll hit Commit New File to add it to our Spaces repo. To create the app itself, we'll add in another new file named app.py. In this file, we'll quickly define a simple Streamlit app that uses the default sentiment analysis pipeline from transformers to predict how positive or negative a given input text is. Just like before, when we're done, we'll hit Commit New File to add that application file to our repo. In just a few lines of code, we're finished, and we can view our running app from the App tab. If we choose to make our space public, we can easily share our app with anyone around the world by sharing the link to this space. In this video, we saw just how easy it is to build, deploy, and share machine learning demo apps with Hugging Face Spaces.
Thanks, Nate. So if you saw too long, didn't listen, it's just like he added two files, like requirements.txt and then an app.py that's using radio in the background, and boom, you have a hosted app, a hosted machine learning app. You can send that URL with your users, and they can play with it. Oh yeah, and where was that? And if you want your app to go faster, we have paid hardware upgrade options. Okay, last one, deploy. Now you have a great model, you want to use it in production within your own app. That's what our deployment options are about. If you open that little menu, we have a few options. And the one I'm going to talk to you about is inference endpoints is our latest solution there. So if you try to do that by yourself, you probably know that, but actually when you go from experimenting to doing production work where you want things to scale, it's like a whole different ball game. You have to work with like Docker containers, with like GPU dependencies, and it's kind of hard and painful, and so that's why we built this solution. And what this solution does, it makes any of those 200,000 models basically plug and play in your applications. All you need to do is to select like which cloud provider you want to deploy the model in, which region, what kind of hardware you want to put under it. You can specify scaling, click, boom. Once it's deployed, you have the URL. You can have your app hit via requests, and you can manage a fleet of model endpoints this way. Cool. Oh, I had a little quote. I don't know if you want to see that. Let's see. Well, that's Gareth from Pinecone. You were saying, we're able to choose an off-the-shelf model that's very common for our customers to get started with and set it so that it can be configured to handle over 100 requests per second with just a few button clicks. So that's what you can do with it. Okay, so to sum it up, how you can do practical machine learning for developers without having to go too deep into deep learning? Well, you can use the hub to manage your models and collaborate with your team around your models. You can use the hub to train, fine-tune models even without code. You can use the hub to build great demo apps to show users. And then when you're ready for production, we have Hugging Face inference endpoints. Thank you very much. This was how to build machine learning with Hugging Face.